reminded ourselves that we can curse on this so that we can just let the channels flow. I guess that's my introduction for this podcast. I never know how to welcome you to the Whollyculturist, so welcome, you've arrived. I'm the one who claims to be the Whollyculturist. My given name is Stephanie Rachel Gutenplan, and I'm the artist known as Pookie as well. And I currently have Diam, which I just learned how to say his name correctly, with me to just channel and riff together. And I was actually like washing my face prior to this meeting, and I was like, how am I going to say how I met him? And I was like, I think it was the demand of his brother being like, you must talk to this woman. And I think that just was like the initiation of us being like, oh, cool, we're supposed to be friends the whole time. And so I have been really excited to bring you on here, one, because I find your wisdom grandiose and juicy, and two, there's something that feels like we've walked parallel lines in this magical adventure called life in some really cool ways. So I just want to dive in with you, and I just have to point out the obvious masculine and feminine embodiments that we are and the skin that we are. Yet it feels like a really cool energetic energy of like wholeness and like sovereignty and respect, and it's like deep in like family tribe like, and that just feels real fucking good. So I honor that. And previous to us starting this, me pressing record, I was like, I'm gonna ask you a question that feels grandiose and put you in the spot, and it turned into, that's a really shitty question, so I'm just not gonna ask the original question at all, or even note it or say what it was, but rather
Yes.
to have Diam introduce himself. I'm just gonna, like, if we were to, and I invite everyone to really think about this, I think it's actually really rad to think about, but knowing that he's been all over and has experienced a lot, trying to articulate who we are, where we come from, what we come with, can feel has a lot of shit in it. So I asked if you were to personify every mentor or articulate the wisdom, or share from a place of just listening to all the mentors that are even just present right here. I'm sure if I were to ask you tomorrow, your answer would be completely different. But if you were to just introduce yourself however you wish, and also share the mentor personified from all of the roots and places you've been and people you've heard from and places you've learned from.
Yeah, definitely. Well, my name is Diam, or Tiamoesg, and the knowledge or connection or aspects that I was given from mentors come from what I would call shamans. But for instance, my first mentor who I lived with for 5 years in Native American traditions. And he specifically told me every time, never call me a mentor, never call me a guru, never call me a master, never call me any of those words. And now he passed away. And now I feel so bad every time. I'm like, yeah, my first mentor. I'm like, damn it. I don't know how to refer to you in society. And so, yeah, that's interesting. But what was amazing about that experience, he was personifying him. He is the most amazing embodiment of a human in the current construct of reality. From what I experienced, he was incredible on all aspects. Spiritual, like the most spiritually knowledgeable person I've ever experienced, while at the same time being a lawyer, and one of the most highest lawyers in the world as well, and also being a doctor. So he had the full realm of civilization, of white men, of also Native Americans. He was also inducted into the religious Catholicism, and as a bishop, and like he did all the things in society to get a full working knowledge of how the current world works, while also being extremely well trained and of the highest degree in Native American um, mysticism, tradition, shamanism, whatever you want to call it. Um, and so that was an incredible experience, and that has led me down the path until I'm here. But the most important thing that was given to me through that was not the seeds of or the factual knowledge or little bits of how the universe works. He had this incredible gift to train people without them knowing that they're being trained. He was like Mr. Miyagi on steroids, with multidimensional mindset. And so he'd give you a job and you'd do it, and it would be incredible. And it would just fit your vibe for a while, and then all of a sudden you come out of it and you're like, wow, I learned all these things. And he was like, oh yeah, it's great you learned those things. But yeah, and then he would just place people around and make sure that they're in the perfect environment for them to grow, and give them exactly what they needed along the way to get the result that he knows they need to grow as a human, which it was marvelous to. I didn't know that at the time, but looking back on it, I'm like, wow, what a master. Which I'm also not supposed to tell him, but what a badass. And the what he really gave to me though is these specific seeds. So there's the universe works in a certain way, and it's a complete systematic construct. And there's fundamental seeds at the very bottom of this understanding that if you have those seeds in the current, like a certain sequence of order of learning and embodying them, then you get given these keys. Basically, they're not just seeds, they're keys, and these keys then open you up to the universe in a way where the universe realizes you have those keys, and then you can now start learning from the universe by yourself rather than having to have mentors all the time. And mentors are there to help and add to and like gift you things that you can't see with your own limited vision, because you're still only learning from the universe in the spaces that you can see as you grow. But yeah, then those keys were incredible, and I didn't realize that until the end of the time that that's what he did, and I was like, wow, thank you so much for that incredible gift, because he could have just told me a bunch of things and give me a bunch of knowledge, but instead he spent his entire time making sure that I could ground in these specific seeds that are keys that would empower the forever future of my life. And then that has led me down a path of meeting other um, spiritual beings and people, and now more higher shamans of great crazy capacities. And the whole time learning from the universe and learning how to figure out how to embody that and follow it and understand it and see it. And so anything that I bring forth is coming from that fundamental space of universal knowledge, or channeling spirits or channeling entities, whatever people want to call it. But it's just energy, and you channel that and you can learn through that mode as well. So it's either channeling or universal knowledge from vision and source.
Hmm. When you articulated like the seven keys and I started seeing it and how it was like growing and how it could be moved, and I would imagine that the keys are like crafted as someone, they're crafting their own key, right? It's not like they have to integrate the universal truth. So that process, and I imagined, like, did was it known that there were seven keys, or did you just create that whole entire organism? Because every single time I talk to you, you're able to figure out how the whole organism, like, that's your mind, right? Like
Mm,
that's your mind. Yes.
yeah. I
Okay,
mean,
I just wanted to make sure, like, that's not in a book. That's your mind. I just
oh
wanted.
yeah, no,
Okay, great.
totally
I
my
wanted
mind.
to point that out because I don't think that's known. Like, they're gonna be like the seven keys. Like, I was about to Google. Well, tell me them, and I want the keys. Like,
Yeah,
that automatically was like, I have a pocket full. Like, I have a bag. I can put seven keys in here. What are they? So it's funny.
yeah,
Like, just need to point out that that's like the magnificence of how your mind works. Every single time I speak to you, it's like this whole, like, well, let me tell you how the system works between these two people working together. Like that, like you have like this organization of like making it So that logistic, it goes to who you just said the mentor was, who like is able to be in this logistic society structure thing that we're forced into, and how to
Mm,
expand that and maybe question and challenge, or just be like, hey, this is a whole new system that also can encompass what you think the society needs with a little bit of risk in it, right? Like you're able to say it
right.
in a way that like can have you said the white man, right? Like to have white men be like, okay, cool, yeah, I'd be open to doing that. That's like real soulpreneurship. So I just wanted to like
Mm,
point that out. That feels really epic. He's a contributor of the Holy School, and we just kind of like have, I think we've now known of each other's existence and have spoken on the phone. It's been a month now, I think, maybe.
something like that.
Something
Yeah.
like that. So we've just begun in our
Time.
collaboration. So I see all the things happening as I've built the Holy School, and I'm into the organization structure. How can we have all these things work, and sustainability and solid foundation and equity and like all of that. And I feel like our interest of building community is very similar. So I'm excited to collaborate the two of us together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, community, that's for me the the biggest thing necessary for humans to grow and to continue being or becoming, which becoming is an interesting word. It's just getting more into being.
Mm.
And to do that, to facilitate that for people, the most important thing that is needed is space. People need spatial freedom, space as translated into time. Time is just a measurement of space that has been invented, so it's not a real thing. It's just space, and so needing more time, needing actual space for your vibratory being to exist, for you to express yourself, for you to understand who you are, for you to have room to be. Also, space as in freedom of structure, of financial obligations, of other things. Like the more space someone can be given to be themselves, allows them to go deeper down the journey of being and becoming more of who they are. And so, definitely feel like providing space for people is one of the absolute necessities during this current space that we're in.
Do you remember, and I don't think it's ever like the first or more most important or whatever. Maybe it's just whatever moment that arises in this moment, of you stepping into the becoming like in a way that felt like it expanded, like there was no turning back, like it was almost like a line of demarcation of like I've now stepped more in my being that I can't, like there is no return of that.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that continues happening on such a deeper level of integration in every tier that I get to. It just happens again and again. It's like, oh well, there's no going back now.
Do you know
But the
what's supportive in you leaning forward into that? Like sometimes it's space, sometimes it's comfort, sometimes it's like people, like what has you continue to lean in? What feels like the fuel, I guess, to continue to leave behind?
Yeah, my I guess I've been lucky with that, but I meet a decent amount of people who say the same thing. So I feel like there's a commonality of goals for some where it is my deepest goal and passion and interest is growth, and in a healthy way, not to just like discard the flow of the universe and
Mm-hmm.
become a growth junkie and do everything I can to just grow, 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 grow. But like actually harmonizing everything into action for the intention of growing. When I was younger, I, for some reason, got really attracted to human potential and realized like humans have a crazy amount of potential that nobody knows about, that nobody follows. And the biggest potential we have that's been displayed is like Buddha or Jesus or like these crazy spiritual religious people, and miracles and all that stuff and magic and everything. And I was always really interested to understand what a human can actually do. And so in order to get towards that, I fell into deciding that I wanted to grow. And every time I get to one of these new spaces, which actually is just happening now during this Cancer season, as the last week, 2 weeks have been an amazing ride, and the next week is going to be absolutely interesting as well. Um, and yeah, going through that and understanding like, well, what I want to do is I want to grow, and if I stay where I'm at, I'm going to hit. I mean, I'm super content. But contentment is not a is not a goal. Contentment is a space of uh, what's the word? Stationary existence. You know, you stay with where you're at because you're content. And the second you hit contentment and you realize that it should be like, oh fuck,
I gotta up my game, right? Like,
yeah,
as soon as there's a settling into contentment, it's just like the awareness and presence of everything that used to really matter just is like poofed. It's like we don't have our finger on the pulse of things. So things
right,
begin to slip, and it's always interesting. I'm like, I need
yeah,
to up my game. I need a goal, I need intention, I need something. Yeah, there's
mm,
I asked that question because we're in that time right now where everyone's in deep manifestation mode. And I also know that there's going to be, like, I also feel the burnout, and I also feel that shit that's not working, but I'm trying. And I can
mm-hmm,
feel the breaking away of, fine, I'm just not, like the everyone, I guess I can't do it. Like, everyone had the hope and the opening and, like, of
mm.
world, especially right now, add on all of the planets and everything else that's going on. Like, we're going through this huge thing,
right,
and so easily I see people like go, ugh, and it's like that I'm not enough, or this is
mm,
impossible, or and
mm.
I'm just one person, or whatever. Like, there's very easy, and I have it myself, and I'm working through that right now of just like, be doing all of this and
Same,
continuing to
yeah,
come back to, like, I'm going to keep going. If I'm not fucking up, and if I'm not breaking down, and if I'm not getting frustrated, then I'm probably not playing hard enough. But there needs
yeah,
to be a point of me being really frustrated and maybe raging out or crying or whatever, and then be, okay, great, what am I committed to? Why is this important to me? Like, coming back to that space um has been interesting, to be like, what support do I need to continue to lean in, because we're all elevating so quickly right now, and everything's
right,
opening, like the doors are now wide open, and we're all like coming out of these hermit holes, and learning how
mm,
to share space together. And what when we give each other space, we can step into freedom. And at the same time, we're all like trying to figure out how to do that without hurting one another.
right, which is super tricky and
Or
amazing.
controlling this opening, or whatever our
Mhm.
thing is about this shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And like touching on that again, I think like growth is my fuel for that, but and it's a reminder to be like, oh yeah, lean in. But
Mm.
the support system that you reference is these keys that were like they allow that lean in to happen without really like there's no it the keys get rid of fear and the keys get rid of illusion, and so they're like simple fundamental things like the fact that time doesn't exist. Like if you really integrate time not existing into your full being, into all parts of your consciousness, and you absolutely fully understand and know, not in theory but in absolute practicality, in every part of your being, that time does not exist, it totally changes your life, your perspective, your interaction with every single bit of anything that we do in this world at the moment. So that is a supremely fundamental key that extravagantly, incredibly changes every aspect of life, and that's just one of them. And there's multiple that when you have those, then it's like, then things don't matter as much. They're not.
Well, even just that one key of time doesn't like, okay, time does not exist. Okay, so when I think about that, I think about my freak out earlier, just today, of me being in reaction of trying to control time, and like
Yeah,
feeling like I didn't have enough time. So there was scarcity and control, and like needing to look good and get all my shit done and being prepared, and all of my shit wrapped into something that doesn't even exist.
right,
So it's like that one thing is actually a breakthrough if we actually sit with that, and like, how can I let go of time today and know that this moment is perfect, right? Like, if time
right.
doesn't exist, then we must redefine what time is for us. And if time is current
Mm,
moment, then like, cool, if I'm declaring time, I only have this moment. What is right now? What am I going to do right now? And then we get to choose our
Yeah.
actions based off of that and our intention. Then it's not what time is it? Cool, I need to do this. If we're really aligned and on contract with whatever our soul's up to, I think we'll be on time to everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely divine orchestration at play. And when we take that time and just redefine it to space, because that's what it is, it's like what we can do is we're in a space, you and I could meet somewhere, and what time is it is a destination. It is a space. So we're meeting, let's say, at the public park, and we're meeting at 1 p.m. But 1 p.m. just means that that's the current constellational aspect or rotation of an orientation of the planets, the sun, and the earth. Like, so that's still a space. We're meeting in a three-dimensional space, and it's a coordinate based on location and based on time. Yeah. So all we're doing is we're talking about space, and we're making sure we share the space so that we can get to the space that we need to be for the space. And so as long as we decide that all time is now referenced as space for us, then it becomes totally different and interesting and you're just like, whoa, now I'm learning all kinds of stuff. And
Ah,
yeah,
and if you were to settle into the space without time, what would the experience be in that space?
yeah, right. And then it becomes to talking about like dimensions, right? So you're getting into this space, you allow space to happen, because space, so another fundamental thing, like words mean all kinds of stuff, vowels mean things, consonant means things, sounds, vibrations, everything it has a meaning. So when you say space, space is spirit. They share the same seam. And the spirit and space, the letter I is the essence of something.
Mm.
So when you see the letter I in words, it's referring to the essence of that, and it connects to the seams, right? So then the seam of spirit is the essence, basically. And then when you have space, since they share the same seam, it has an A, and the A means action. So now you have
Wow.
what space is just spirit in action. And it's a freaking amazing phrase to meditate on, because when we look around, we have this pillar, we have this wood thing, we have all of these space places, things, but they're held here because their vibrational field is slow enough to be physical matter. But that physical matter is still a vibratory sequence that is embodied, that is energy embodied there. It is a spirit. It is the essence of something, and it is in action because it is in the physical world. So to create space is just to organize spirit, and then you're always in this spiritual space, because that's what space is. So then, yeah, you can combine that with dimensions, you combine that with energy, you combine that with all this stuff, and it's just like,
You can
whoa.
combine it with embodiment, like you are
Yes.
just time and space, just personified in full
Yeah.
expression.
Yes. Yeah.
I was writing things down because as you're doing that, I work with clients, and a lot of what I do is help support them in articulating in words and language and logos and brand and colors,
Ooh.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
their services. Because
Absolutely.
just like the same question, like, who are you? What do you do? You know, like, what can we expect from you? Let me hear your vibe in actual English language, even though you probably want
Yeah.
to speak in tongues and play a song and make some movement, right? Like, this is who I
Right.
am, right? Like, I don't know. And so
Yes.
that's what I do with people. And she's been sending me Hebrew recently, I'm
Mm.
the mystic Jew in me has just been so into it, and I've been reading all of this. You know, I've been taking some deep dives into a bunch of literature right now, and taking notes. You know, and when you said that the I being essence and the A being action, when we actually look
Hmm.
at when we look at ancient texts and
Ooh. Yeah.
all of that stuff. I just got really curious because she's been doing the Hebrew alphabet, and she just sends me pictures of them beautifully articulated, like she's drawing them and connecting with
Ooh.
them
Wow.
and meditating with them. And you know, it's like something to think about. Like that's some really powerful symbolism when we really think about what words are made of and how
Absolutely.
they're made and spelled, and going back to the roots of language, these ancient scriptures. I just get really interested in what we're actually looking at when we're reading things.
Yeah. Completely. Yeah, the fact that it is all vibration, it's just like, whoa. And then the symbolism, like the symbols mean something. It's funny, we take everything for granted. We're like, someone made that. Yeah, that's great. It's like, no,
Well,
someone made that for a
someone did
reason.
that.
Like it has reason behind it. It has meaning. And we're just like, yeah, it's a fucking A, right?
There's something when I did a podcast, and it was like a car rant, and it was all about like we just need to learn. It was after my a deep reaction of mine. I do deep reactions and then get all this medicine. I'm like, I have something to say. Like after I get
Yeah.
back to neutrality, I have to go full to wounded child and then straight to bitch. But then I come back. Like
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
I'm getting a little bit quicker at the flip flop.
Mm.
But when I come to actually do it, it was like a car rant, and I was like, I need you to go ask everyone in your life, what do you need to be cared for? Like, how do you experience care? What do you need from me? Can I meet these commitments? To have that conversation, this is what I need. Can you meet me? Cool. How are we going to know that we care about it? Let's have let's have this all be transparent so that, like, we both know and can feel that and, like, are doing acts that
Mm-hmm.
really nourish that belief. And it's like a daily practice so that we actually, like, are supporting each other and healing the fact that we constantly distrust that we care about one another.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Constantly distrust that we care about one another.
I mean, it's crazy. So it's on one of those rants and doing all of that. And then when we come here and do this, and it's like, if time and space is the thing, and all, we let go and we settle in and we see how everything here is for us and, like, has been divinely orchestrated for us, how would we just even treat one another in these spaces? Because
Mm.
how much can we let go of? How much can we drop? How much control can we let go of? How much looking good or meaning to be a certain way or what being righteous, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Oh man, it's so interesting, especially with vision. It's like um, one of the things that I've been given is being able to see people and like very deeply see the bright shininess, the gift that they are, like their potential and what they can be,
Mm-hmm.
and then at the same time see all of the things that are shrouding that from happening and what blocks are there and like what keeps that person where they're at. And then it's like, oh man, like you have this amazingness that could be let out, but we'd have to like get rid of all these barriers and talk about this and get rid of fear and time and age and looks and things and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, you want to do that? And they're like, yeah,
No,
and then and
I'm
then there was
quite
this
comfortable with all my shit. Thank you very much.
right. Oh, and it took me
Well,
a
the same thing
while.
goes, yeah. When I coach coaches, all right. I've lived many lives, whatever. At one point I was coaching coaches, and one of the things I would always say is like, you see the golden child, right? You know who they are. Like the
Mm-hmm.
most magnificent, like you are in awe of. They bring you to your knees. You've witnessed that in each of these people. All of them are like in tears at this point, saying yes. I'm like, cool. You only get to coach to that person so that they continue to rise up and love the shit out of all of the stuff that brings them down. We don't make them wrong for it, and you believe that hard and you like show up with them in that way, so you're constantly just embodying and believing in them anyways. And I'm so bad at doing that with
Mm.
people that have triggered me, because I'll go in and assume and they're gonna go be a dick, like I'll be like, here we
Hey,
go again, another time
hey.
when they're gonna go do this, they're gonna do that, and I'm coming in with all my own shit, and I'm not seeing them in their purity, which means I'm not seeing myself
Mm,
in my purity. It's just like a
mm.
projection of all of these things, and all of the things that I'm upset about them doesn't even have to do with them. It's so deeply rooted in other faces, places, experiences, all of that in some other type of
Yeah,
space that doesn't exist in this moment.
right. Oh man, exactly. And like when you put in spirit, like, and get rid of ego and realize that like we are beings that channel energy, and that energy comes from entities or spirit or freaking quantum physics, whatever the hell you want to talk about, prana, all the things. Um, we are actually channeling at any time we talk. It's not us. We don't have the ability to speak. As a we have a space that we like take care of, and we embody we allow different spirits to embody that, or we get taken over by them if we're not good at figuring that shit out. And that channels through. And like when that's channeling through, it's like, yeah, okay, this is great, this is awesome. And you meet people who have these golden spirits in them, and you're like, oh man, you have access to this one and this one, because there's not that many. I mean, there's a lot, but you can start to identify them in other people, and it's like, oh, that person reminds me of this person, and this person reminds me of that person. It's because they share energetic.
Weave. That's cool.
Yeah. And with that, it's like, oh my God, you have one that I really like. Hey, we should talk. We should like, and then you get excited and you're like, yeah. And then you like quickly hit barriers and you're like, oh shit. Well, you want to get past that? And they're like, no, I'm good. I'm like, damn it. I wanted to hang out with that one. And like, now I only get to hang out with these ones. And it's like, oh, yeah. So anyways, it gets, sometimes it's a little bit like, oh man.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing to be like, wait, but I'm ready. Aren't you ready? I have this one friend, and he's amazing. His birthday was yesterday. And
oh, congratulations. Happy birthday.
I'm going to ask his permission. I'm reminding myself. I'll write it down in my hand. Chad Close, I'm putting your name on the podcast. Chad Close, happy belated birthday. You are amazing, and I love you. And we met originally in a facilitation, like year-long development, and it was one of those people, it's kind of like you, where it was like, oh, I feel like we have the same belly button, like we're walking the same path, like there's some sort of zip line system in my head where it's like we're weaved similar, just walking different lines in different places at different times, but we're kind of like, I don't know, similar feels or something. And
yeah.
And so I wound up moving to the little town that he was in, and we've both been brother and sister and, you know, friends and all of the things. We've morphed our relationship in plenty of different ways because we just felt so inclined to like be with each other, right? And in that, there's also this deep healer in both of us. So I would be in this deep place of like almost hitting this raging reaction of like the littlest version of me, and he would get so excited that it was like a kid in the candy store because he was just so excited for me to break through, and I was like, fuck you, is what it would turn into, like, to Chad instead of like, because he was so excited that it almost like I'd be like, I don't need a kid in the candy shop right now, you know, like this is really hard, and he's just so excited for me. But it was like the light worker, and I was like, be a shadow worker. I wanted him to cry with me, I wanted him to hurt with me, you know. So it's like this weird dialect of what it means, you know, what it means to really care for people and know and see and be like, fuck, like,
yes,
if only you knew how godly you are, right? And I'm always like, I'm sure there's so many black spots of my own where everyone's doing like, doesn't she know? And I'm over here like, no, I'm not ready for that one yet. No, I'm just gonna work with this one right here.
Yes. Oh man. Oh.
That's so good.
Absolutely.
I had an idea. Okay, so if we were to simplify all of this down, if we were to put it into a bowl and come up with a simmering sauce of something that feels really simple for people to either ask themselves a question or reflect on, or an action with another person, because it feels like we talked a lot about self, but there was also a lot about other, and it feels like time and space is definitely in that. And I think that first part of the reflection is, what is your relationship to it? But then I also think, like, if it didn't exist, if we could imagine, if you think this is bullshit, if you could imagine that it didn't exist, I invite you, next time you're looking at your watch and about to run out of your life, that's something that feels really important.
Yes.
I would invite you to reflect what action you would take differently in that moment if time and space was not something, and like actually do that action, even if you're 10 minutes late to something that might feel really vital. That's my risk to offer. Is there anything you want to offer or question or anything else? And my ass is puckered because that's putting my shit on the line too, right? Because I'm always like, oh my God.
Yeah. Man, I have something, but I get so rage worthy when someone breaks sacred space because they aren't aware that it's sacred space because of time, which is fictional. And I'm like, you mother person, like, you're gonna like leave that we are like 5 minutes away. We are 5 minutes away from getting to the thing that needs to be said at this moment for this to like just change lives. And it's like, oh, I gotta go. I got a meeting. Like, what? Like, no, that's not how this works. It is space. Oh man. So thank you for saying that. That is so beautiful.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
gonna have to
and
try it.
it's so yeah. Oh man. It's really difficult to live like we have to totally restructure our lives, which is why we are becoming the people we're becoming, and everybody is in that because we have to live within a system that allows that space to exist as space. Otherwise we're just running around cutting up all this space because of time, and it doesn't work that way. But one thing practical that it's an invitation. I invite everyone to try this out. Someone was asking me last night actually, about time, and they're like, "Well, how do I just want to be on time, but I'm always late." Like, yeah, well, that's because you're trying to be on time. Like, you can't be on time. Time, first of all, doesn't exist, and secondly, if you're going to try to be on time, there's a million and one variables that is going to get within your flow to make it your percentage of success to be on time is like 3. It's nothing. Like, you might be on time a couple times because you know the route really well, or maybe you're on time like by a minute all the time, but the second you allow for some variations to happen, you're screwed. So
It's so deeply based in intention. Even the word try, or maybe, or should, kind of.
uh-huh,
Okay, keep going.
yeah. And when you take that and you instead put it into space, it's like you're trying to land in space in a very, very precise place with your movement, which your movement is not even controllable. You're driving on streets, you're in a car that might break, you're in all kinds of stuff. You have your own emotions to deal with. There's so many variables that could change the trajectory of this epic trick shot you're trying to throw to get to this one tiny perfect space of being on time, where in reality, since it is space, show up 30 minutes early. Show up, that's your intention, is to be 20 minutes or whatever the time frame is that allows you to have these variables, because it's space. And why do you want to show up early? Is like, people are like, yeah, just show up early. It's like, no, that sucks. No one wants to show up early. But when you until you get more mature and realize things, that maybe you need to not get fired, or you want a promotion, or whatever your reasons are to be early, but there's a way better reason to be early, and it's because it's space. So if you have intention and you have something that you're trying to fulfill, we're trying to do or accomplish, showing up to that space early is allowing you to imprint your energetic possibilities on there. You're bringing your space and your spirit and your energy. You're grounding your dimension there. You're making it your space. All of a sudden, you're becoming prepared. You're aligning your energies. You have manifestations and projections that are coming through because you're just in the space. You're imagining what's going to happen in 15 minutes when the meeting starts or whatever,
Yeah.
and you're already preparing everything. And then people who show up, they're like, oh, you're early. And then they walk into your dimension. You own that domain now. You're like, yeah, what's up? Welcome to my space.
To prepare, like, I think that I just, to articulate, because we said time and space does not exist, does not mean that you just flow as you wish. It's to set
Right.
deep intention and to actually be so divinely like guided that you are in spaces creating the content. You are creating the space in which you are walking in which you're inviting people into. You are now a facilitator of current experience. And so to
Absolutely.
be able to be and to show up and to hold space and whatever that is of soul work, right? Like, that's when we really start preparing. When I'm teaching, when I'm doing workshops, like, I wake up at 4 a.m. and I do a bath and I meditate and I spend extra time alone and I could sleep next
Mm,
to my husband and, do the lazy thing, go late, just run in there and do the thing. But there's like a deep ritual in caring for the time and space that does not exist. Instead, it's us that's existing. So, like, if I'm
mm,
actually going to use my me, whatever this is, to like in this thing that we claim time and space in this mechanism of worldly, like, I need to deeply prepare. And so, when people are trying to show up on time, you're walking into someone else's context. If you
yes.
are a leader, if you are someone who wants to guide, and if you want to initiate change, you must arrive first. And you must
Mm-hmm.
set context, and you must be one that goes outside of the box and looks for something new because you're so present to what's here that you're not worried about time and space. It doesn't exist when you're not worried about it. First thing to
Mm-hmm.
stop doing, stop being anxious about not having enough of it. You'll find more of it, right? So, like, just get more
Yeah.
present, then you'll see this is what the space needs. This is what the collective need. This is what the person sitting next to me needs. This is what I need. Oh, shit. You're able to see because you have set the space for it to be safe for people to connect, which goes back to the beginning of all the shit we talked about in the
Abs-
beginning.
absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so that's your homework, life work, and we're on it too, so it's a game on.
Well done.
Are there any last words you wish to say to humanity? And it could be in any form. Anything, any last words you want to say to them?
Yeah, I mean, I look forward to hearing from anybody who's on that growth path and interested in harmonics and whatever. Like hearing from more people would be amazing because
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're all here for is aligning with each other in that same practice or trajectory. So yeah, and I look forward to doing this more often and talking more with everyone. Um, that's an open invitation to anybody. So that's what I would say to humanity.
Cool. And we'll have all of the contact information of however we figure we want to be contacted from this so that you can get a hold of both of us. And if you're at the Holy School and you're seeing this in the video or wherever you're seeing this, I mean, we're both at the Holy School doing our things there. And I will just end by saying thank you for listening. And it's been a wild ride. I'd be really interested to hear of like any response, feedback, like your offering, your wisdom, your runoff, your rant of what's important here. Like, right? Like, whatever
Yeah.
that is, I would love to hear the ripples of we now have took in the mic and now it's like we're dropping the mic. Whoever wants to speak next, like go ahead and pick it up. And wherever you're seeing this, put it in the comments. If you're drawn to spread it out, spread the word out, like however you feel called to pick up the mic yourself, become a Whollyculturist. It's just really to study humanity and see how can we be whole and how can we be spiritual. And it could even be lack of spirituality, like atheists, like those who believe in nothing. That's super powerful and a super spiritual act as well. So this isn't like any temple or church in particular. This is just the mind of what it means to be a spiritual human. So come join us, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. I don't know if there will be. Do you want to do music for this intro? What are you thinking?
Maybe
If you heard
timeline.
some cool music that wasn't just a drum, that was him.
Yeah.
He's a musician too. And if not, you'll hear the cool drum. And at some point, you should join the Holy School because we're gonna have
Yeah.
concerts and stuff. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. It's gonna be amazing.
Okay, I'm gonna press stop recording now. So you guys out there,
Yep.
go be holy. You are loved. Ciao for now.